If there are questions, I will run around with the microphone because it's always beneficial for others in the group to actually hear the question that's being asked, and then Bishop Serratelli can answer those.
Before the questions, what you're thinking of, there's a story told about Albert Einstein. He used to go around giving his theory of relativity. He went from university to university, scholars. He always had the same driver. And after about the 10th time, the driver said to him, Professor, I've heard that talk so often, I can give it myself. So Einstein said to him, okay, the next place we go, I'll wear the chauffeur's cap, sit in the back, you give the talk. Chauffeur got up and he gave the talk flawlessly, not a mistake. People were in awe. Then it came time for the question and answer period. The guy raised his hand, asked the question, he was stumped. He went like this, And he says, you know what? He said, that question is so simple, I'm going to show you how simple it is. I'm having my chauffeur answer it. So, I don't propose to have all the answers, but in case I can't, Bishop Semple will answer. Yes.
Bishop, just a point. The mic. Yeah, okay.
I was just wondering why on the Mystery of Faith and Acclamation B, why those words weren't changed. Because, first of all, it says when we eat this bread, we have been trying so hard to convince our people that it's no longer bread, that it's the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ. And then in the second line, we're back to cup again, when we just said the words of consecration over the chalice. And I was wondering why those words were not changed as well.
Poetic license. The word bread is even used within the Eucharistic prayer. I think they use the word bread. So I think that's probably why they used it in the acclamation. But I agree with you fully. I make a point of asking our priests never to say at communion time the bread is distributed here and the wine is given here. I cringe. Because there's been a general lessening of belief in the Eucharist, so much so that people even forget what it means to genuflect or be silenced before the Blessed Sacrament. So I understand your point is well taken, but I think even in Canon 1 they referred even after the consecration of this bread and this saving cup. So that's probably why they kept it.
Miss Kelly, and I'm from St. Peter Cathedral. I'm very young here, so you'll have to excuse me because I'm going to ask a very young question. So I hope you're gentle with that. The sanctity and majesty that's returned is beautiful, and as a young person, I welcome that. I'm wondering if that same sanctity and beauty will be returned to the hymnal pieces that we sing during Mass. Now, I know it's taken 20 years to evolve to this point. I'm hoping that I can foresee a new hymnal within my lifetime.
Well, you're right on. The Holy See has asked the bishops' conferences to put together a directory of songs to be used at Mass. Nobody paid attention except the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops. And we've been working on it, but as we've worked on it, it's almost an impossible task. So I think what has to be done is, I think, liturgical publishers is one way of working through it. And I think we've come up with certain principles that should be in the songs. But I think that has to be done probably on a local level, where people who are astute only choose those songs that are really accurate, I know one major archbishop forbade in his diocese sing a new church. You know that song, we sing a new church, I was recently in his diocese to preach and nobody paid attention, they were singing the song, But I just think it's going to take a long while to get back on some of that, But it will happen. Yes?
I'm going to stay in the middle.
Yes, Bishop.
Okay. Always the right response.
He was just here and he could have stayed. I'd like to thank you for what you've done, Bishop. I think you've clarified a lot of things for us, and I'm grateful. However, I'm very fearful that we're going to go through exactly the same thing that we went through before. The two camps, if you will, maybe even more than that. For instance, much of the problem that we had since Vatican II has been with inadequate preparation, because of inadequate preparation. This is nice for the few of us who are here, and in other dioceses for the few that will receive it. My fear, and I think it's well-founded, is that most of the people out in the pew will never, ever have the opportunity to hear a clear explanation of any of this. And it's not because the information isn't available, but maybe the will is not there to take the time to bring the people along. And I'm not sure what you can do about that.
I issued a pastoral in my diocese last year on that very issue, liturgical renewal and catechesis. One, to keep in mind, we're in a much better position that in terms of preparation for the new text than we ever were when the first changes came about. One reason is that we're not changing in any way the structure of the Mass, so it's not going to be a radical change where people will be jarred. Okay, that's one thing. A second thing is we have available so many resources now that were never available. Did I show you some of these? Did I show you the One Body, One Spirit? And as your bishop said on the internet, so the key to this whole thing is having meetings like this and then leadership. It has to go back to the parishes. The pastors, I mandated every parish to have a catechesis for all the people, you know? And I think that's where it has to go. And if it's done that way, then the transition will be easier. Yes, Bishop. Sure.